don't say anything too crazy. And I really hope I don't have any more stream problems because those were annoying as crap.
What were the stream problems?
So, for everyone who was listening to the last stream, and of course Sam, the previous stream problems, for some reason, OBS, Open Broadcast Software, which is what I use to do everything, was glitching, and every 10 or so minutes was disconnecting, and like disconnecting and reconnecting. The problem is I use Restream, which streams to like multiple, it splits the stream to multiple things, and it would never reconnect. Just once, it was like one and done. And so the YouTube thing was completely screwed. So now what I had to do, which is what I'm doing currently, and yes, we are live on YouTube. Hey everyone. What I was doing is just going straight into YouTube and not through a splitter first. But the problem is the disconnect thing worked on my Odyssey stream part as well, I should say, not as in part 2. The problem is then the last podcast, when it reconnected, because I had 2 podcasts back to back, it started streaming the other live show into this show's like Odyssey container. And so it was like one very minor glitch, which was just like some minor disconnect, just like crashed everything, which you, as someone who's working in the advanced part of tech, I'm sure you experience that kind of stuff all the time, where one small thing just like has a cascade of carnage.
Oh yes, that's for sure. However, I'm very happy that I don't have to deal with external software as much.
Yeah. Well, let me see. It says we're live on Odyssey as well with 3 people watching, which is nice. Just gonna make sure everyone can see stuff. But how have you been lately? I know this is not the best time of day to ask how you're. It's like a very early morning, which, thank you very much for adhering to my arbitrary like live podcast hour kind of things. But yeah, how have you been lately?
Yeah, personally, pretty well. I had a vacation actually for about 2 weeks. That ended like 3 weeks ago. I went to Costa Rica. I saw toucans, the bird. That was really a highlight.
Not 3 cons?
Monkeys and toucans.
Funny.
Oh, that's a terrible joke. You should never do that one again.
But yet it's live and recorded for the whole world to see, and eventually people are gonna say, "Hey, remember that one time you did that stupid joke?" And I'm like, "Which one?" Because I'm full of them, as it turns out. Yeah.
Yeah, but that was really. I hadn't taken any time off, I think, since 2018. So, or maybe not like 2 or 3 days off at a time. So it was nice, but it wasn't really like 100% time off. I was still working like 2 or 3 hours a day. It's not really like you can ever take like full time off. But yeah, I mean that helped. That helped. How am I doing otherwise? Well, must say coming back to Thailand was nice, and I very much like living there. And generally, a lot of people are more worried because 5 or 6,
of course.
So I'm just at this point just like, oh, okay, cool. Next cycle, let's go.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is like people are just like freaking out about this kind of stuff because I mean I actually mentioned this. We're talking about Luna on the last stream, and the whole Luna thing from some dude on Twitter who's talking about like he knows personally 8 people who've ended their own lives over the crash. Like, I'm sure there's more. And it blew my mind because, first off, I did not expect a stablecoin project to be the kind that people would sink their life savings into. I'd expected that to be like a BitConnect, to where people are like, I'm going to make it so rich. But then also, It was
Did
like
did
with
they did people lose? Did people? Was it because of UST or Luna? Do you think?
it's a it was both. There was a lot of UST where people were like, I get 20% APY on my money, and it's just like my fiat. It's not like I got this coin, and not like cum rocket or whatever goes to the moon. It's like, no, this is like dollars go up. A lot of people were like, oh, that just works. And then a lot of people were like, oh, Luna's doing these cool things, and this Do Kwon guy is run around Twitter calling people poor, so he must be rich. I therefore, if I have his project's token, that's going to go up. But they're just, and the thing that really
So
like
sad, honestly.
it is very sad. And the thing that really kind of gets me is this was like 3 days in. Like, aren't you gonna like wait it out and see if you can get anything out of this? Like, aren't you gonna like you just think your life's over already? Like, how as sad as it is that this stuff happens, I don't put the crash as 100% blame. Like, how teetering on the edge you have to be when your imaginary numbers on your computer like go down. You just it's over instantly. Like, that's like your whole hope kind of goes away. But at least I think a lot of those people have been shaken out of the Dash project over the years. I highly doubt anyone, again, fingers crossed, but like anyone did anything drastic because they lost a lot of money when the markets went down. And now it's like that doesn't pump that much these days, so it's not like you're going to be like, I lost everything. It's like, no, you have about what you put in, maybe half that, but nothing worse.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this goes back to something that you said to me before. On the
Mm-hmm.
last crash, last bear market, average person, they were emailing anybody that they could find in the Dash project, maybe to make them, project. We don't control the price. We're not, at least I'm not a very big holder of the coin. I'm not the founder in any way. I
Mm-hmm.
just, try to make the tech work as best I can.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, and then this time around, yeah, we have. I did start receiving a few emails along the same thing. Not that they've lost some. Yeah, some people have lost a lot, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's anything comparable to the people who lost everything in Luna, right? Like our price, yes, it might have gone down
Yeah,
like
that's
50% or something in the
that's
last
the
few
crazy
weeks.
thing is uh people are like what do they expect? Like they email devs or core team people? Like, what are you gonna do? Like, you just, and it's like a highly speculative market.
And
And
I'm like, in terms of actually producing the tech, I wake up, I
mm-hmm.
work on it, and I go to sleep, and I work on the weekends. Like, there's not much more I can do to
Mm-hmm.
make things go faster.
Yeah.
So it
Well, it's pretty
is
crazy.
it yeah, it's not an ideal situation, and it's heart wrenching when I hear people ending their lives uh, over Terra Luna and stuff. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's really, really, really sad, actually. I would say I this is by I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I knew that project was terrible. In fact, I
Terrible.
have
Who's got the terrible puns now?
as publicly, like, other blockchains. You
Mm-hmm.
don't really want to do it, or at least I
Yeah, of
try
course.
not to. Like, try to stay above the fray. But in that situation, um, yeah, I mean, algorithmic stable coins, in my opinion, just don't make sense. Like, you can't work. And this is something that I was bringing up, like, again and again, mostly because a lot of people inside Dash were calling for an algorithmic stablecoin on top of platform. Can we do it after platform launch? And I was like, no, you'll have to fire me.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and I does not help us.
Yeah.
10 helps us a lot, and I put -5 because I was uh, yeah, I thought it would hurt us more than anything. And it's actually funny. I didn't expect to be proven right so quickly.
Yeah. I mean, a lot, like a very brief tangent, a lot of what was wrong with the algo stable coins is that they're price fixing, which doesn't work in a free market. and they're not redeemable one for one with whatever backing their asset is necessarily. And they're over
Yeah.
collateralized. There's a bunch of problems, but also, isn't Dash kind of a great stable coin about now? Like the price has been pretty consistent in like what is it, the 50 to 150 range. It's been pretty,
I mean,
pretty good.
compared to many projects, we've been much more stable. I don't
Hmm.
know if that's
In this case, it's caused people to get pissed off, but whatever. All
yeah.
right, well, let's
Um,
officially start this whole thing. I'm gonna hit the intro thing, and then we go and get going.
oh yeah,
Ready?
but
Three,
we're
two.
live right now, right?
Yes, we've been live for about 11, 12 minutes, and yes, it is glitching a little bit, and it's annoying, but we'll just have to deal with it. But anyway, let me hit the intro. So, hey everyone, and happy Friday. Welcome to the Dash Podcast. I'm joined by the one and only QuantumExplorer, a.k.a. Sam Westrich, or is that opposite? I don't know. How's it going, man?
We just answered that for like 10 minutes. It's
Yes.
pretty
How
good.
are, let's just do another hour podcast of like, how are you? And let's talk about everything. But can I just
This will
jump?
be my
Yeah.
this will be like my meditation, you know?
Yeah. Just like, every 10
Yeah.
minutes, like a new warm beverage shows up. Like there's the tea and then
How,
there's like the coffee.
how much do I have to pay you for this? For therapy?
No, nothing. It's free. This is what you get. It's value add because it pumps everyone's bags once you get a little nice bit of zen and can crank out good stuff faster. But anyway,
Mhm.
so obviously if you're watching this, you're not subscribed, please do so. And there's a few questions the community asked in the Discord channel ahead of time that I got to be going through, and then I have kind of some of my own to kind of fill things out. If you have any questions, you go to cointr.ee/the desert lakes, which is right there on the screen, and then you go throw me some dash, and then I will be compelled by the power of financial incentives to display those questions and answer them, even if they're a little bit dumb. But so yeah, I will be monitoring the live chat, but I'm not really. I'm going to be giving it the cold shoulder. So that's how you ask the questions. I will interject those in between the pre-prepared ones. So if you have something burning to get off your chest, start queuing those things up now. But anyway, let me let's see where to start. I'm just gonna go straight to the AMA podcast channel thing and start going like right there, because yeah, there's a lot of interesting stuff here. So first off, opinion. Do you think Dash will have to build brand new apps and services, or will existing ones integrate into Dash platform? What do you think?
Um. Oh, yeah, I kind of understand the question. Like,
Like,
can
will we
DApps
have to
from
build?
Ethereum migrate
Yeah.
over, or yeah? So I think we will have new types of DApps, basically
Mm-hmm.
leveraging the decentralized nature of
Mm-hmm.
platform. Like for example, in a lot of other DApps, you it's I well, I'm not sure, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
hard to predict the future, and this is one. But I do think we'll have different types of DApps,
Yeah.
especially when we add specific logic that we support that other networks won't. For example, like signature aggregation and DAO voting. Well, I mean, a lot of other projects also support that, but we generally, whenever we push out a feature, we do it in a more decentralized way. So I do think that there are going to be DApps that come to our chain that just cannot exist in other places. Maybe because our fees are lower, maybe because our fee model is just different. Maybe it's because of the speed of replies or the decentralized nature of
Mm-hmm.
platform. There are many things that are just going to be different. So I believe that people will see those differences and find, and there will be a place for DApps leveraging. what we do better.
Yeah. Well, let's hit and there's a lot of questions, I guess, along those lines, but we'll wait to go in more into depth when those kind of runs around. But anyway, here we go. Another one: registration of a data contract. To what extent does this give the creator of the contract control that can only he and the user see the data, so everyone has optional privacy? So it sounds like a privacy question of like the privacy of registering the data contract. Basically, if I do a data contract with you, like friend you or send you, I don't know, some kind of exchange some kind of data like private messaging logs or something like that. I don't know, something like that. Who all on the network sees that this has happened?
Um, okay, so there's a few things there. Like we can take the Dash Pay contract as an example here.
Mm-hmm.
DCG probably will register the Dash Pay contract as a starting contract when we start the network. It might even be actually incorporated into the you know the startup process, but inside the Dash Pay contract, we have a field that's encrypted between users that
Mm-hmm.
allow them to uh, provide their extended public key between users. So when I send that extended public key to you, only you and I know of the actual content inside. And so you can create contracts that do that. The only problem is that you can't actually verify that people are properly encrypting their data. Like,
Mm.
there's no way to verify. Well, maybe there is actually. I should ask our research team about this, but I do
Yeah.
not think that there's a possibility to actually verify that people are properly encrypting their data instead of putting, random ones and zeros, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yes, you have the possibility to say in your data contract this is supposed to be encrypted, and then it's up to clients to actually encrypt it properly.
Mm-hmm. All right. I guess that answers that. Now, this other one here, um, I imagine a future DApp that you do future DApps integrate with a phone wallet like a DApp store, or how do you foresee the interaction occurring from an actual user between the wallet identity and a DApp?
Yeah, so definitely, we'll basically have tons of dApps on platform that you can selectively choose. The reason
Mm-hmm.
why I don't think a dApp store will really work on like iOS, especially, it could work on Android, is because you can't download executable code. It's part of like Apple's terms and conditions. You
Yeah.
can't download executable code from a remote source to execute things. So any uh, like basically what this would make happen is phones would have to make apps specific for
Mm-hmm.
contracts. You would not be able to download the contract and also download the source code to run the contract directly, because then you're providing what Apple's calls an app store within an app store. So that just wouldn't fly under Apple. So since we want to make, I mean, maybe somebody would do it for Android only devices. I'm not
Yeah.
even sure it's okay on Android actually. I just know it isn't on Apple. But you could make the same thing work just for a web experience, and for mobile devices, you actually make the apps that you download
Mm-hmm.
from the app store.
Yeah, that makes sense. So there was a few questions here. The first of which we already answered, which is how are you? Yeah, we already spent like 10, 15 minutes on that
We
part.
can go more into it. Don't worry.
Yes, we'll circle back Jen Psaki style to that at the end. But this is what one when version 18 mainnet. I think there was just a new release candidate for version 18, right?
Yeah. So to put it mildly, this has not gone very well. We have had a version 17 release, I think, on May of last year,
Mm-hmm.
and we were targeting this version 18 release in November, and
Mm-hmm.
we're in May right now. So we had kind of had the functionality built out and ready in November, and yet there have been bugs and bugs and bugs and stability issues that we've been tackling now over 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so this is not a great situation. So basically, the question is, what have I done about it? We opened up two new positions in the core team,
Mm-hmm.
and one for a lead dev, and somebody joined actually just 6 days ago. We got somebody new. On top of that, there were other hires in the core team, and they've
Okay.
come, they've been built up over time, right? I think like we have to do better on releases, on making sure that this doesn't happen, better on our delivery process. Uh, to answer the question of like when version 18, well, it's stable now. But yes, we just pushed a release candidate. I'm waiting for, maybe more reports of issues, right?
Yeah.
Eventually, we're going to get to a place where a stable release will happen. It's being tested out. Everything works. It hasn't happened so far, but maybe this one is the one. It is they a lot of changes have happened in RC4, so I'm really hoping that, I mean, more than hoping, like I've been told that this one is a lot more stable and that we don't know of any issues, obviously, at the moment if we push it out, right? Um, but
Yeah. It's an algorithmic stable release. Too
no,
soon.
please don't ever say that.
Yeah. Too soon.
Yeah.
Um.
Yeah. But
Bad
it
juju.
the reason why this one has been so hard, it's not
Mm-hmm.
just because of we didn't just have problems in the core team. It's actually that this release has is probably delivering one of the most complicated features we've ever actually built inside
Mm-hmm.
of DCG, which is quorum rotation.
Mm-hmm.
And it when the we haven't published the dip on quorum notation because it reveals a potential exploit on our network.
Okay.
A very difficult to actually make exploit, but we still don't want to tell people, hey, this is the exploit.
Mm-hmm.
So
So version 18 fixes this exploit.
yes, and with this exploit, you're not able to actually do much other than basically stop chain logs, right?
Mm.
It most likely would lead to the halt of chain logs. Now, that's not really a very big economic incentive to somebody pulling off something that would cost them a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
Potentially they would, potentially they wouldn't, but it's not as if they can find a way to make money other than by potentially like stopping chain locks and creating a big deal about it and maybe
Yeah.
having the coin shorted. Shit, I'm now giving people like a playbook of what to do, but you still
Yeah.
don't know how to do the attack.
Yeah. Well,
um,
but since this version's stable, it's going to be out soon enough. And
oh
I don't.
yeah, I will be out soon. And so the point that I was trying to make is that this was needed for platform because as platform relies on the on a specific um, the instant for, it relies on instant send to be final.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to make sure that instant send was unattackable, basically, and that's what this release does. Um, when we first introduced instant send, I remember talking with Codoblock. I was like, "Wait, isn't there a small issue here that there could be a way to attack it?" And he was like, "Yes, theoretical attacks when the only option is somebody can double spend
Mm.
probably won't cause somebody to make that attack, right? But
Yeah.
in platform, you can mint unlimited money if that attack
Mm.
were to happen.
Mm.
So minting unlimited money, we can't
Is a
have that.
problem.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that is a
So
definite problem.
we had to solve this issue. Hence, why we're doing this very complicated quorum, well, interquorum rotation type
Hmm.
thing. So yeah, so that's why V18 is very complicated. It's to solve this problem for platform.
Yeah. Andy's in the live chat and he has some question. Hi Andy. I'm not ignoring his question, but I'm just finished down this kind of thing. The other one is Evo before 2023, also known as hashtag WhenEvo, which is like probably 5 times a week you get this one.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. It's actually something that you about mental sanity. um, the 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 situation is that I'm very highly confident that we make it this year.
Mm-hmm.
Generally, because there's not much left to do.
Mm-hmm.
We're basically we had fees.
Mm-hmm.
Um, well, we have multiple teams, right? So we have a timeline for core, we have a timeline for platform protocol, we have a timeline for the storage part, we have a timeline for the consensus part, right? I think that the thing that's generally been the most at risk was the protocol section. And in the protocol section, we had fees, we had withdrawals, and let me make sure that there's nothing else that I'm forgetting about. I'm actually pulling up our internal roadmap right now
That's
just to
funny.
make sure there's nothing
Nothing
like
major.
those are the two big things. Just so we're
Mm-hmm.
but let's make sure that there's not a small thing. Oh yeah, so there is. We have to in the consensus part of things. There's something called same block execution that's needed.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that they're working on right now. It's a feature that we're gonna hopefully backport from Tendermint. And then once that happens, we have to make some changes to support it in platform. So that will also take maybe I'm not sure exactly how long that's going to take, but that's a third thing. Um, yeah, so that's the crux of the work that's left, and you're following our sprint reviews. Fees are pretty much over. I had a demo on
Nice.
it in I would say early April, and
Mm-hmm.
now we're we're just finalizing a few last things. So yeah, so there's not much left. Uh, I, I I don't. People are always like, okay, well, you said it's going to be out in May. Yes, I did think it was going to be out in May 6 months ago. Um, we're not out.
Yeah.
Software is hard to predict.
I mean, to be
Uh,
fair though, you have revised estimates. These are never promises; these are estimates, and you have revised them before the deadline came and went. You were like a
yeah,
few
yeah,
months
yeah,
ago. It's like, yeah, I think maybe a little bit more. And
yeah. I mean, I'm basically like trying to be as transparent as I can.
mm-hmm.
We have these features left. We have to tick them off. They're the I can list them all out if people want. I know every single thing left in every single team. Um, it might be useful. I'm not sure. But yeah, in the protocol side, we have fees, withdrawals, um, the integrations,
Mm-hmm.
integration to ABCI++. We also could potentially one thing that we really well I really want to do is revise some of the encoding that we've had to lower our storage costs. Our encoding mechanism, we use something internally called CBOR. The problem with that is that it uses a lot more data than we'd have to use. And it's not something that we can really change post release. So I think it's like probably a 1 week effort, and it's going to save a lot of pain afterwards. I think that we should probably do that. Um, at this point, we've been working on this for years. What's one extra week, right? At least that's the way I feel.
Famous last words, but yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the encoding of how we serialize data.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that could be done pretty quickly. And then, yeah, so as I say, like, there's not much left. Uh, in okay, and in storage we had batches and proofs. Batches were merged in today, so
Mm-hmm.
yay. Proofs, we have a pull request open, but there are still some issues. And then when they're done on that, it's probably just going to be like maybe um, performance improvements. On storage, as I said, we have same block execution. We have withdrawals, but on the consensus side of things, um, and then on core, we also have some work that we need done, namely to support the withdrawals, to support some features in platform. But it shouldn't. I mean, it's nothing compared to what we had to do in V18.
Yeah, that's comforting. So are you looking forward to any possible DApp besides Dash Pay? As in, like, obviously Dash Pay, the username wallet and stuff is like the big one.
Mm-hmm.
That's like the flagship. But personally, are you looking forward to? Now, it wasn't clear about like if this is potential or if this is like previously planned. But let's go with like actually in the works, previously planned for this one. Like, is there any in the works DApp that you're looking forward to that's not called Dash Pay?
Yeah, there was actually one that I had worked on
Mm-hmm.
last year. This was basically uh, it was a speed booster on your wallet.
Mm-hmm.
So it would basically put encrypted fingerprints of your of the transactions that you care about
Mm-hmm.
in as extremely compressed in platform, and like that, if you're logging into a new device and you're syncing the chain again, that's, I don't know, like 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't really know what the status is, so I'm not going to really push it to the mobile team to like make sure it's still working. Probably won't come out for release, but it will come out shortly after. So that's one, but that's not a very in terms of dApps that we don't have ready, but that I really can't wait till we have, is a
Mm-hmm.
food delivery dApp.
Mm.
Um, as you can see, I've gained some weight over the last
I
year or
actually can't see. You look fine, but then
two.
again, people
Uh,
can't. I don't know if people could see with me, but yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I've gained 20 pounds since the last time you saw me, but uh, I
So
go,
vacation
yeah,
does.
tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow morning I am planning on a hike. Maybe that will help a little bit. Um, yeah, so food delivery app. That's one that I think is a great use case, just because of how platform works. Like how easy it is to index data that you care about, and then you can
Mm.
basically query the information. No other blockchain has this, right? You can
Yeah.
insert queryable information. You can create your contract in such a way, like a restaurant um, has this specific stuff, like a name, and it has dishes that it serves, and then you can search for, hey, I'd like to have pad thai. um, right now, in the first version that we have, we don't actually support find things around me. That's actually a very hard technological thing to solve. In fact, that's actually one of the questions that I give in interviews.
Mm.
Can you find a technological way to give a Merkleized tree? I shouldn't actually give them out in my interview questions, but
I mean,
uh,
not bad,
yeah,
but
it. I don't think the people would be listening to this podcast, my future hires. So,
mm.
yeah, it's one of the questions that I ask, like, hey, how can you construct a tree to find the closest things to you in a provable manner, right? And that's actually a very hard question. It's the hardest question that I ask.
Yeah. So what's um what the result of that, right? So you can
Oh,
query information much faster. And
no, 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 no. You can actually prove what is closest to you. So let's say
mm,
I'm in Bangkok,
mhm,
and I say, "Hey, give me pizzerias near me," and it
mhm,
gives me back these 5 pizzerias. But on my phone, because you're in a decentralized network without any trust, there's no trust
mhm,
in our network. This is so different from any other project, right?
mhm,
Where it's like super easy. You trust the server that gives you back the information. No, in this specific case, you're asking, give me the closest pizzerias to me,
mm,
and it's going to give you back information and prove that that information is correct
mm,
or that it was inserted. I mean, somebody when people like insert their own pizzerias, it's possible that they put the wrong geo coordinates, right? So you can, but that the information that you get back is the same that the information that was entered by the people making the restaurant owners, for example, if that
mhm.
makes sense. No, I am not aware of any blockchain that has this feature. I don't even think that anybody's even thought about it, but that is something that I cannot wait to build in. It's a post MVP feature though.
Yeah.
We don't have those types of trees. You can basically say, "Hey, give me restaurants in Bangkok," right?
Mhm.
That we can do right now, but you would not be able to give, your lat long coordinate to the system and say, "Hey, give me back things near me."
Mm.
But that is something that I. It's a very beautiful tech question on how to solve,
Yeah.
and it's one of those things that a problem that has never really been solved before. I mean,
Not the same way.
in in blockchain, it's never been solved in blockchain, and it's something that I love solving. But me wanting to solve it is not as great as me wanting to release platform.
Of course. Yeah, but so that basic um like I always think about like what can you do that no one else can do. And so now I'm trying to think about where that would be like useful to the end user. So obviously if they're doing everything blockchain, then it's useful to the end user. But there could be a hybrid DApp of some kind that still just uses a centralized server to sort of find the closest data and prove it and say, "Yep, that's correct." And they don't really care. Like, I'm trying to think of like what are places where people are what are things that just won't work properly except through platform in this case, like the food
well,
delivery. Yeah. So go ahead.
Well, I would say it's not just that you can do it on an external server; it's
Mm-hmm.
also the ease, right,
Mm-hmm.
of how platform works. It's that if somebody wants to create a system, they don't have to run a server. They
Mm-hmm.
just put their data in, and it will automatically work, right? Like
Yeah.
for they don't have to hire software developers to code up the algorithm to find the closest thing to you. It's a
Mm-hmm.
service that's already baked into the protocol. I mean, I
Mm.
think that's a interesting selling point for DApp creators, at least.
Yeah. And so basically, if I'm kind of piecing the whole thing together, right? If people are trying to create apps, and let's just forget about DApps for a second, but just apps that do this kind of stuff, there's a ton of background work in something like a Yelp, for example, and a ton of
Yeah.
background company infrastructure, which all translates to money, which all translates to, they either have to charge the consumer a whole lot or have like a lot of VC money, a lot like it just becomes more expensive. So you wouldn't really see the benefit on the end user side of something like this immediately, except over a period of time, you probably notice, man, there's a lot of services, the apps that work really well that are being built on Dash. that do this, whereas they just aren't cropping up in other ways, or if they are, they're expensive, or they, you don't really see it like that, but you do kind of see the fruit where like it's the developer's dream of like, man, I get to just like bootstrap this service. I just have to code up a quick little front end, throw in some data, and then it just works. Just release it. As opposed to,
Yeah.
well, now I have to code this algorithm that does this. I have to do that. I have to, all this
I have
other
to
kind of
worry
stuff.
about how I store my data.
Mm-hmm.
You don't. I mean, you in Dash platform, you just upload your model and then it's done. Like it's a lot easier than having to start up a service that holds user data,
Mm-hmm.
etc. Like there are ways to make it easier in 2022, but I don't think it's as easy, especially not in blockchain.
Yeah, I mean, just off the top of my head, something that might be interesting with that would be a metaverse game, where like an NFT powered metaverse game, where you get to query who is close to you really easily in like a in-game map kind of thing, and query their little like NFT profiles and stuff, and it just like runs really well, and then there you go.
Yeah, I mean, I can't wait for you going out and you're trying to catch little animals on the ground, something,
Mm-hmm.
the closest
Yeah,
things to you, and then the protocol by itself creates these
Pokemon Dash.
NFTs randomly by random data on the blockchain. There's tons of cool stuff that you can do, and you can do it in a provable manner too. You can do it without you can create games. This one thing that we can do much better than centralized servers is kind of cool, and then you
Yeah,
can create value in like succeeding the game,
yeah.
but that value isn't coming because you paid like $5 for like a chest, right?
Mm-hmm.
uh, well, actually you
Yeah.
can even code that in. You could create, so you could have payments in game, but it's all provable from the data contract, right?
Yeah. And I mean, I think that that's obviously metaverse so hot right now, right? Everyone's still that stuff, but being able to just plug in the full ecosystem of this is kind of interesting. Where if you
Mm-hmm.
have like Dash NFTs that are in-game items or in-universe items or characters or things like that, that you can prove that you can prove who not only who owns what, but then prove like the proximity and stuff. You can run a whole game off of all this data querying infrastructure, and you don't have to. There's that's like less development time in building the actual game, and then
Mm-hmm.
in the swapping back and forth between NFTs and stuff like that, the actual trading of these items happens in the native currency of Dash that then is associated with the exact same username, which then you can actually pay them real money and you can actually spend it in the real, like the meat space, the real world. And
Yeah.
it just kind of it kind of like checks all these little boxes that have remained to be checked with all these other things.
Hmm. I do think that for games, you probably will need smart contracts. And when you need smart contracts, that is not a feature that we are having at release.
Mm-hmm.
So, there are some limitations, especially around the first release.
Yeah, well, that's for sure. Let me hit on this one here because, and I have kind of a similar, it's kind of all in the same thing. Can you picture any scenarios, possible use cases of how platform will create more demand for Dash? And I mean, this is specifically a question of demand for, I think it's of buying Dash or of using Dash, but then that was also one of my more, curated question things here. Let me just figure out look at what I
Well,
specifically asked. Oh yeah, I was like, what do you see Dash Platform's competitive advantage in the industry walked back from the end user product? Meaning, what are some examples of apps, use cases, built-in platform that you could see people building or using that they either can't do on existing blockchains or choose not to because of Dash is significantly superior in that regard. So that's all kind of the same thing of like, what ways will this bring new people jumping over to Dash and kind of using Dash?
uh-huh. Well, there's a lot of there's a lot of like nuanced questions there. I'm going to kind of start with how this could create more demand for Dash, right? Well,
Mm-hmm.
if people write DApps, the fee uh, in platform are credits, and credits can only be purchased with Dash at a fixed rate. Basically, credits are Dash just on the platform chain. They're
Mm-hmm.
held in a contract in there's a one, not a one-to-one mapping, but it's a fixed mapping. I think it's
Mm-hmm.
like 1,000,000 to 1 or something like that. So basically, you can spend Dash on the platform chain, but um, Dash is very bad to be spent on the platform chain. It's not a chain meant for transactions. It's
Mm-hmm.
a chain meant for services. So
Yeah.
what would happen if you actually paid somebody on the platform chain? Well, basically, it's completely anonymous. Everybody will know that like two identities interacted and sent money to each other, and that's
Mm-hmm.
not great. And so it's not meant for that. But the there will be additional since all services on platform require Dash, people need to purchase that
Mm-hmm.
Dash to use such services. There's also another thing interesting. For example, if you were to use, we talked about it like a food delivery DApp, right? How do you actually pay? Well, you pay in Dash, right? So
Yeah.
let's say I want to order a pizza nearby in my DApp. Well, there might be two options, right? Paying cash on delivery or pay with Dash in advance. um, you know, I'm just guessing right here. You
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't add like a credit card system, right?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, not in a decentralized app. That would be ridiculous. So you would pay with Dash, and that would increase. Like if people liked such a thing because maybe it's just cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, when a lot of the food deliveries systems in the world, the restaurants are paying. Uh, Maybe I shouldn't give this away, but they're paying a ridiculous amount to the food delivery companies, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think
So
that's proprietary information, really. I mean, like DoorDash takes a giant chunk out of like people's sales, and so like they would want to not do it through DoorDash if they could, because it would take like a chunk. And then like anyone who's ever ordered food, and then you order on Uber Eats for some reason, it seems like they pass a lot of that on to the customer. It's just like, all right, your $20 burrito somehow 87.85. Like, what the hell? Like, how did that happen? But yeah.
Oh, well, yeah, I don't know if Uber Eats takes another cut from the restaurant as well. I just don't know that. But I do know in Thailand how food delivery works, and how yeah, they take a ridiculous amount from the restaurants. So
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's generally the case in many places in the world, where they sign up to these services, and then they cost them just a lot, and then on top of that you pay a delivery fee. Now,
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't it be better for the restaurant to offer like a 10% discount to anybody using you know this a Dash food delivery?
Mm-hmm.
The name works actually pretty good even for it.
Yeah.
um yeah,
DoorDash.
so I could see that being like a very good use case, because you would interact with multiple parties in a decentralized way. It's kind of like a supply chain to get your food.
Mm-hmm. Well, so now on this one here, do you think we will require explicit marketing? Not talking about communication, but like explicit marketing, like running advertisement campaigns and things like that, to ensure a platform become popular, or can its usefulness create enough demand on its own? So build it and they will come, or build it and then you got to do some other stuff to get them to come. It's basically the crux of this
Yeah,
one.
I definitely. So if you have limited resources, what do you do, right?
Mm-hmm.
um so, and I think that we are in the case of not as much limited well, we do have limited resources, but we also have limited amount of time, especially me. So I know that I'm much more focused um, on delivery than I am on marketing right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I just saw a presentation from Marina, who got recently hired in DCG as communication, but is helping out on marketing since we don't really have an internal marketing team anymore. Or we do, but it's more like it's not the people that were hired for marketing.
Mm.
But we are going to push it a little bit differently than we have in the past. And something that I care very much about is that we target developers more. Uh,
So you do
so
have to
yeah,
market. You just have to market people who will do end user marketing for you,
to
kind
some
of.
extent, yeah. I think like we need to create an ecosystem, and by to do that, not as good as it needs to be, in my
Yeah.
opinion. Especially with a lot of our components. Like, okay, we build out Tender Dash, which is not an improvement over Tendermint. It's just different,
Mm-hmm.
right? Now, why would you use Tender Dash instead of Tendermint? Well, it has threshold aggregation, but why would you use Tendermint over Tender Dash? Well, it has in Tendermint you can have different power for different validators, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you have like some things, basically all this information is just lacking at the moment.
Yeah.
And we really have done, it's not that we've done a bad job at it. We haven't
Just
done
haven't done the
really
job.
any job. Well, we haven't done any job
Yeah.
because we don't have, we haven't really been in the right place to be able to do it yet.
Mm-hmm.
But we're getting to that place now. So what we have in DCG, even with our current market price, we are hiring two extra people
Mm-hmm.
at the moment. One of them is somebody to help increase our documentation, and we also are hiring a web developer to build help us build websites around Grove DB, Tender Dash platform, and to explain to developers what we're doing and why they should use Dash and Dash platform.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds good to me. It's like platform has been one of those. I guess it's a little bit of a tangent, but platform has been one of those things that has kind of been the black hole into which all hopes and dreams for Dash have kind of gotten sucked. And but it's not just that it's like in capture like taking a lot of money, a lot of hype, a lot of like all this stuff in there,
Mm-hmm.
but also there's extremely little knowledge of like what it is. So
Exactly.
compare this with like ETH 2.0 or whatever, where like everyone knows it's there, everyone knows it's like proof of stake and other stuff like that. Although I don't know if most ETH people even know what ETH 2.0 is, but at least they know like the merge to like the staking chain and all this kind of stuff. And some other big releases are kind of similar. Whereas I remember when Chuck was still around and he was talking about
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, we can do this, that's the other thing. Though no one knew what the hell it was. And then it's
Mm-hmm.
data contract and other stuff. And then like, what is that? And so
Well, I'm not
right,
even sure developers knew what the hell it was back then.
yeah. I mean, there was just a lot of like no one knew anything. And then
it,
now it's like even as of like a year ago, when we're
mhm.
starting to get into like Evo fatigue hardcore, there's a lot that is different from what I've heard today than back then, right?
Good. I would say one thing is that I don't really think the approach that we went on was the correct one.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but as becoming CTO last year,
Mm-hmm.
we have something that's we've been working on for multiple years. We need to finish it and deliver it, right?
Yeah.
I really do I didn't probably like platform at the very beginning to the extent that I like it now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I really, really like what it's become.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm working in it, right? So I'm a little bit biased. But yeah, I think that one of let me kind of tackle why I think it was probably the wrong move originally. Is that in software, the best thing is incremental updates,
Of
right?
course.
You have you have a product that's released, right? And in and that was our core payment chain,
Mm-hmm.
and we've been funneling more than 70% of our budget towards platform for the last do that. You should work on the project that you have out and make more updates, and then maybe with 20% of your budget work on something else. So I think that we should have improved governance. We had like the first DAOs. We should have really like made improvements there. We should have worked on masternode shares, allow like smaller participants to stake, things like that. We didn't do that, and that's something that that I think was done wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But hey, it's the past. As I became CTO, I could have stalled platform a little bit to put more resources into other things. I made the decision that full fledged ahead, like we are
Mm-hmm.
releasing this thing. So put all I hired another 10 devs to be able
Mm-hmm.
to like put the development effort just hammer on, and so we could release this. So it is, I would actually link it to kind of like the Tesla strategy. I don't know if you guys know that, how
Mm-hmm.
like it was basically all investors were like, "Oh no, Tesla's gonna die. They're never gonna
Mm-hmm.
release. They're never gonna be profitable." Do you guys remember that? Do you remember that?
No, I don't, because I wasn't really. I never bought the Tesla bug back in the day, and it just now
Oh,
with it kind of like I always paid like a side eye to it because I knew people who were into
uh-huh.
it, but I wasn't like that close to it. But yeah, it was the same Win Evo thing with them, huh?
It was something. Yeah, it was something similar. So basically, what I'm trying to do is, I we're, we can't fix everything. Well, I could not fix everything right away, and I really just wanted to focus, get platform out there. It was either
Mm-hmm.
that or we would have released platform in 2024 if we had put much more resources into core, right?
Yeah,
So
that would have made
at this point,
XKCD happy.
I yeah, he would have probably been happy, but
Yeah.
um I just want to get this out. Well, get it out, and so like that we can build smart contracts on it. We can also
Mm-hmm.
build a lot of other features. We hopefully we can grow our team
Mm-hmm.
um, if the market responds favorably.
Yeah. I mean, I think that'd be nice. Let me hit this one, and this will get combined with like one of the other questions. But when platform launches, what percentage of block reward will be directed towards platform credits, and how does DCG expect MNOs to redeem those credits? Can the credits maintain a dash peg?
Yeah.
And like just the credit question in general, and like I'll hit my bit in a second, but
Well,
yeah, go for that
let's
one
do that
first.
one first, and then
Yeah.
otherwise, it is 3 a.m. I might have like a hard time
Yeah.
remembering them all. So yes, credits are Dash just on platform. They're
Mm-hmm.
just a different name for us. Probably for marketing reasons, we would not. We would probably use like C Dash or something. Like it's not a good idea. I mean, there's no difference in value. They're always
Mm-hmm.
redeemable by one to one. Not
Mm-hmm.
one to one, but it's pegged. It's 100% pegged.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't, and it's not like an algorithmic peg either. It's a hard peg.
Yeah. We like them
just
hard
to
pegs,
make
don't
sure.
we? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So
It's Um, so, so yeah, about the masternode rewards, that's there were two approaches in how to deal with uh, platform, making
Mm-hmm.
people run platform, right? There was the carrot and the stick. Um, we had originally gone with the stick model, but
Mm-hmm.
in a stick model, the negative is that if platform has the ability to ban masternodes,
Mm-hmm.
it increases the risk very, very much of something going wrong with platform and all of
All of
the
Dash getting
payment
screwed.
chain. Yeah, all the payment chain nodes basically get banned. So you don't really want that. And then there were other problems just in the complexity. So we wrote like a I don't know 20-page document on proof of service
Mm-hmm.
on how, and I looked at it and I was like, okay, this is going to take another year to implement.
Yeah.
So I, I didn't really want to go down or create like a too overcomplicated system and delay things more. So instead, what I proposed is a carrot approach. It's
Mm-hmm.
more simple. It's basically that half the rewards go to half of masternode rewards go to their masternode on platform as long as these masternodes are proposing blocks in platform.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, if they're running platform,
Mm-hmm.
they get rewarded. And what does this actually mean? Um, a masternode owner should be getting at least the same amount as they were getting before, if not more.
Yeah, of course. But it's going to be more in some of it's going to be in the form of platform credits rather than on chain dash.
Yeah, but so so one thing that we've been investigating is if those withdrawals could happen automatically.
Mm-hmm.
So and I think they can. So in the instead of getting 1.4, you would get 0.75 or 70, and then you get another 0.70, like at a different time in the same week, right? Like we could potentially even make it automatic. Um, I'm not sure if we'll put the time and effort into that for MVP. But the point is that it's going to be like pressing a button on probably. Um, I'm not sure exactly where we're going to put that button to withdraw, but
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be very easy to withdraw your credits.
Yeah. And so basically, so can you give just like a really quick recap of how the fee system works? Like, obviously, don't need to go super in detail. There's like dips and shit for that, I'm sure. But like,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
so like, let's just
We
say,
actually we're going to
yeah,
publish them soon.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, the fees have two main components. There is the processing cost and the storage cost.
Mm-hmm.
And then and then the storage cost breaks down to like 99 point something percent for normal nodes. And I think we have like a little amount that we add in for archive nodes.
Mm-hmm.
What? I have a fly. Sorry. Or a
Yeah, it happens.
mosquito.
It's a tropical environment.
Um,
Things happen.
yeah, yeah. So where was I? Yeah, so we have a processing costs and storage costs. At the difference of other networks, our storage costs don't actually go to Mastodon owners immediately. They
Mm-hmm.
go to Mastodon owners at a deferred schedule,
Mm-hmm.
and this is to allow people to start up nodes and always receive backdated rewards. So
Mm-hmm.
actually, this is a very interesting thing because if the dash price goes up, it actually creates kind of a snowball effect
Yeah.
because the rewards from 5 years ago that will be paid out for storage are in fixed price of the old amounts of credits. So if the
Mm-hmm.
dash price goes 10 times up, you'll receive 10 times more storage based off of the 5 year ago storage costs. It's actually quite interesting.
Mm.
So when users pay um, for things, they're paying the current cost, right?
Yeah.
But that is kind of stored and not paid out immediately.
Mm.
Well, the processing is paid out uh, one cycle later, and currently our cycles are 10 days. So processing costs are paid out quite quickly. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Storage costs are paid out, start being paid out 10 days later, but on a inverse exponential um, way over 50 years.
Okay.
I don't know if that really explains if that's understandable, but
Yeah, I
basically,
think it
like,
is.
what?
I think it is.
Okay.
Now the thing about so because it trickles out over a period of time, uh, and as it gets paid out, if the price of Dash is going up at that time, then you might get what seems like a freebie because you get whatever you're paying for more and more over the years as the price goes up. And so kind of might is that kind of what you're talking about? And then it might incentivize
Not,
people jumping on board
mm,
in the early days.
um, no, not exactly. From the user perspective, they just pay a cost.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's say I'm gonna do something horrible, and I'm gonna talk in fiat numbers, but I
Nice.
think it's understandable to people.
Yeah, of
Let's say
course.
they, let's say the fee is, I mean, the fees are definitely not going to be this high, but just for argument's sake, let's say they pay a fee
Mm.
of $1, right? For the user, they're just paying that fee.
Mm.
They won't, when they, actually, if they remove money from platform and the dash price hasn't changed, they're actually going to get back for using platform. Generally, it's probably not going to be $1. It's probably going to be more like a cent. But for the mastodon owners, that $1 is spread out over 50 years. And well, not the, well, the storage part of the $1. Okay, let's
Mm-hmm.
just say the $1 is all storage costs. It will make things easier. But if the dash price goes, times 100 relative to fiat, then you don't have $1 spread over 50 years. You now have $100. So their storage cost is going to be, um, I mean, not as high as the money that they're getting from this, you know, the funds that they're going to be receiving, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, then you can ask, well, what happens if somebody puts in credits and then the price goes way, way down? Well, yeah, that is a problem. But
Mm-hmm.
what we do have mechanisms to help that, and also, storage costs. I don't ever believe over time will, because they kind of like averages out. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
it would be very, very difficult to have a situation where Mastodon owners are running platform and losing money over storage fees.
Mm.
We've divided the like we've unless, I mean, if the dash price went to $1, yes, that would happen. But
Yeah.
I don't think that's
Knock
gonna
on
happen.
wood.
What?
Yeah. Said knock on wood.
I mean, I don't think it can go to $1
Mm-hmm.
because I think that I'd be buying a lot.
Yeah, of course. And I mean, there's also like the diff assets, which aren't. It's not quite like a what backing, but it kind of could be. And it's also just like it is kind of funny. Just like the very brief tangent of when you talk about stuff like Luna going down to zero, based on you know like I don't. You've seen a lot of coins not like kind of have a floor, And it's like, I feel like there's a big fat layer of speculative icing on the cake that almost every project has. And then it can't drop lower than its real utility value, because they're not like as like a stock, like a company stock. It's also like a real utility token of, it's actually like, it's the end product and the stock in one, which is kind of weird in crypto. I don't know, crypto's weird. But like the
Yeah.
actual raw usage of Dash or usability of it is the price floor. And so unless we lose that, which is always a possibility, but I doubt it, like, then
I
yeah.
mean, and one of the reasons why Terra went to zero, I mean, it's because they have to maintain a peg, right? With the cost.
Yeah.
That's the point of Terra. And if I'm not mistaken, right? So
Yes.
you can correct me if I'm wrong. But and because they have to maintain a peg, and they have to, I mean, basically it's useless
Mm-hmm.
if you can't maintain the peg, right?
Yeah.
So it can go to zero. Whereas um, we're not pegged to anything, so we don't have this like we're never going to have this like massive sell pressure to maintain a peg.
Yeah. Oh,
So we
it's
don't
like
really.
it's like, imagine if Dash's entire value proposition was being worth at least $40. Then if at some point people get scared and if it goes below $40, then it's just free fall. It's just done because it failed in its prime
No,
utility.
well,
But
well, if you
but
just
because that's not its primary use case, is not maintaining a specific value. It's not going to happen.
well, yeah, but it's not only that. It's that like Terra existed to maintain the UST peg, so they
Exactly.
had to mint or sell to maintain this peg.
Mm-hmm.
If we say, hey, Dash needs to be at $50 or something like that, or
Mm-hmm.
$100 or something like that, we could say whatever we want, but we're not going
Mm-hmm.
to apply, inflationary metrics to the coin in order to maintain a peg because we don't have a peg.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
Well,
no, the coin supply distribution is fixed
let me hit on
in
some of
Dash.
the fee stuff. These are just about like total fees to the network, because we like low fees per the user. But
Mm-hmm.
the reality is crypto, like, these networks are working, based on their economic models. However, 99%, I would go as high as saying, of the reason why they're sustainable today is on something unsustainable, which is inflation, which is the crypto version of VC funding, I would call it, right? Because like there's new coins created and that's like the subsidy, and people buying the token makes them have value, and that's the only reason why miners and masternodes are incentivized to keep running over a long period of time, as Satoshi envisioned. I mean, obviously Ethereum's a little different, they're wonky stuff, but like it's over a long enough period of time, inflation goes to absolute zero, and you're supposed to be maintained purely on fee revenue. And obviously it takes longer. It takes a long time. And like in Dash's case, it's like hundreds of years or whatever to go really to zero, but it is going lower and lower all the time. And there's a little bit of a sobering thing where the Ethereum network is pretty much the only relatively sustainable on a fee model project today, because it's what 5.7 million generated in the last 24 hours as far as like fees. I don't know if that's enough to justify a market cap of whatever it has or whatever, but it is something. But then there's a huge drop off after that, because like Bitcoin, 500 grand daily in fees on Bitcoin. That's nothing. That's peanuts according to all the miners and stuff that do that. But then it gets significantly lower than that. Like Avalanche is 70 grand a day, and then you get all the way down to cryptofees.info, which is my data source for this, does not have Dash listed. I think we should get on there at some point. But for comparison, Decred is $76 in a day, and Zcash is $39 in a day. I'm guessing the actual fee value that Dash generates is probably under $100 or somewhere around there today, which is like absolutely nowhere near sustainable. Now, obviously, if you have millions of transactions a day for payments, like 1 cent transactions, let's say, maybe 5 cents, right? You start to get some of
Mm-hmm.
that revenue back. and that's a very steep hill to climb, but it's not necessarily enough to sustain the whole network. But then we get to platform, right, where you have platform fees, where it's not like, well, how many payments do I want to send per day, and what, like, I'm only going to spend 1 to 2 cents or whatever on each payment, and that's it. Whereas now you have something different. So basically, how much in fees is platform expected to generate as far as like total network revenue? Like, do you obviously that's an impossible question to answer with precise amounts, but just what's the thought of the sustainability of the Dash network that platform revenue can add?
Um, well, I would say that it really depends on how much platform is used. It's a
Mm-hmm.
little bit of a cop out, but the there are a few things in the fee model that we have baked in. Uh, one of them is a fee multiplier that allows the
Mm-hmm.
masternode network to decide what our fees are. And this is actually in a way to respond to external conditions like the dash price. We don't want, if the dash price goes up by 1,000, for users to be priced out of
Mm-hmm.
using platform, right?
Yeah, of course.
Um, yeah, so we have a few things called the fee multiplier. We will be setting that to a multiplier of 2 on release, which basically means that for a masternode running, their costs, their average, we basically looked at the costs of running on AWS
Mm-hmm.
or DigitalOcean, very similar. Um, yeah, well, basically they're getting back twice in fees than they're spending on storage costs.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, we have that. Um, we also have like processing
Mm-hmm.
costs. How like I don't actually think our fees are going to be very high, but um, this is because I think that we will get more by having lower fees that
Mm-hmm.
allow more developers into our ecosystem. I mean, look at Ethereum and how expensive it is. A
Yeah.
lot like new projects look at those fees and they're not. I mean, they would do it because they have to or because of the reliability of Ethereum. But if they didn't have to pay such high fees, they wouldn't. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I think we have more to gain by having low fees than having high fees, as long as the low fees don't hurt us. And I don't think they will. I think that as long as we make sure that master owners are always receiving more than they spend, then we're in a very good state. I also, when we talk about how the block reward will diminish and diminish and diminish, and eventually, you should supplant that by with fees. Satoshi's vision.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
think we will get there as well, because if you look at how the storage fee basically aggregates, I believe that you will also get back a quite handsome amount in fees over time.
Mm-hmm.
But this is more theoretical than
Yeah.
than than anything.
Yeah.
So
So
but eventually, like, yes, we will get to a point where fees will be a component of supplanting rewards, right? We're
mm-hmm.
not at that point yet. So, I think, we can focus this year on releasing platform and some
That's a
other
great
things,
focus.
and we can focus in a few years on fine tuning the economics of fees. I mean, our block reward isn't I mean, it's diminishing by 7% every year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, which is diminishing, right? But it's not to the level of Bitcoin basically having every 4 years, right?
Yeah, well, very soon, and it's just like an aside on the fee thing. Monero's going to hit the tail emission, which is like a very base. I think it's something like 1% or something for life. It's like a very 1 to 2, somewhere around there, and it's never going down after that. And so, it'd be interesting to see when Dash kind of hits a similar level. Um, but yeah, keep going down, keep going to fees eventually. Before I jump into some other questions, I'm going to give the Andy Freer privilege of like jumping the line because he had a question way back when that I'm going to say. He says, assuming smart contracts are added, how well does Sam think Dash will scale if migrating a lot of the ecosystem from, for example, Polygon to Dash? Like basically, with smart contracts, how do you think Dash could scale? Is kind of the crux of the question.
Well, we have a problem.
Eh.
uh, so I believe that they're handling quite a lot of transactions per second, right?
Mm-hmm.
What project did you say? Sorry.
Polygon.
Yeah, Polygon. Yeah, yeah. They're handling quite a lot of transactions per second, and currently in our masternode model, we would not be able to handle that many.
Mm-hmm.
Generally, because the servers that are running this are, on Polygon are extremely powerful, right? And
Mm-hmm.
our masternodes aren't. So we have to have a different approach, and our different approach is decentralized computing, where the computing doesn't happen. It's basically just sharded computing logic. But to do that, well, it takes effort,
Mm-hmm.
and
Of
it
course.
takes it takes effort to build out this model, which we won't have on release of smart contracts.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say that at the beginning, we're probably going to be aiming for something along the lines of 100 to 500 transactions per second, but
Mm-hmm.
we won't be able to, scale to, uh, you know, 10,000 to 20,000 at the first version. I would say that our scaling in the long run looks very promising because
Mm-hmm.
we can um, always add extra nodes to a system, right? By maybe reducing the masternode collateral. I know that would be like ridiculously hard to do, but if we ever got it to scaling issues, we could, like, instead of making it 1,000, make it 100, and we'd have 10 times more nodes on our system when we
Mm-hmm.
get to that point. But yeah, we're not there yet.
Yeah.
let's
Why do you,
let's
why do you
let's
think it would be difficult? By the way, it seems like it's a simple parameter change for the collateral, and then you're good.
Oh, because anything in a decentralized network is difficult,
Hmm.
because you have to
Fair enough.
migrate over a system to a new system, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have to allow, yeah, I mean, yes, it would be simple in theory, hard to implement, and then at the moment there's no point. Um, we don't need more nodes on our network. In fact, having more nodes on a network would actually be could be detrimental.
Mm-hmm.
I remember a core dev telling me that, but I forget why. So don't ask.
Yeah. Well, from just my super rudimentary knowledge on that kind of stuff, um, with block propagation, it
Um,
becomes more difficult to reach the edges of the ecosystem, which is why when they were originally testing the gigablock kind of stuff, they had like a 10-minute latency for propagation, and I think that was with only like 6 nodes or something like that, and it couldn't really handle more than that during some tests. Again, this is years old knowledge. I'm sure it's gotten way different by now, but yeah, I guess that makes sense. But the I guess what you're talking about, this scaling challenge there, would be you need a way more robust node than the cost goes up too much to make it worth sinking 1,000 dash of capital just holding on this node, and then you'd have too few nodes. And so by slashing the collateral, now you have more nodes able to kind of do that, you know?
Yeah, yeah, but that's definitely like
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to scale before we have any usage, right? So
Yeah.
let's first let's not try to design a perfect system um,
Mm-hmm.
at from the get go. Let's get some usage first, and then let's see if there's good market demand, and hopefully there will be, and then we can scale.
Yeah.
Thankfully for scaling, like a lot of this work has already been done to some
For
extent.
Dash Core Group's plans on addressing improving Dash's privacy.
Um, yeah. So privacy is one of those things that's kind of been on the back burner a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
and it's it's what I said earlier. You have to put your effort somewhere. Um, so there is one aspect of privacy that I care very very much about, and
Mm-hmm.
that is the identity registration.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So when you register your identity, you don't want your UTXO chain to be
Mm-hmm.
associated to your identity. Um, and we've spent quite a good amount of time now in DCG trying to figure this out.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I'm not going to hold up platform release for this problem.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, probably what we'd have to do if we haven't solved this problem in time is tell users to
Mix
um,
ahead of time.
mix ahead of time before they register their identity, or we'll find a way, right,
Mm-hmm.
to make it like to give users the possibility of fixing this issue, but
Yeah.
not with a good UX.
Mm-hmm.
um, Now, if we wanted to do it with a good UX, then we have to find a way to implement some type of privacy on mobile, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we do have ideas there. One is just implementing CoinJoin. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
yes. The
Yes.
name's changed a few times. I'm just making sure I'm getting the right one now.
Yeah, do the dark
Uh,
send.
yeah. So that's one option. The
Mm-hmm.
negatives there are that mobile devices don't really work very well for CoinJoin,
Mm-hmm.
because you need to be present for the moment of signature, and it can actually cause problems if the phone disconnects on a network. So that's that. We also have other ideas of making how to make CoinJoin a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
However, to do that, we would need, well, one of the things that we've presented in front of regulators are we've presented a list of transactions in Bitcoin. We've
Mm-hmm.
presented a list of transactions in Dash that are coin joined, and we're basically like, okay, so if you're against us from a privacy aspect, this is what it looks like on chain.
Mm-hmm.
Here are the two coins. Tell us which one's Bitcoin, which one's Dash, and they can't. So you know that really has been a good argument of you shouldn't you shouldn't target Dash, uh, because in the end you're getting exactly the same information. Um,
Mm-hmm.
you can do exactly the same thing on Bitcoin, just not with a obviously not with a good user experience, but in the end, I don't think regulators care about the user experience. So
Mm-hmm.
that has been one one thing that if we do improve the system,
Mm-hmm.
we won't be able to say anymore, and that is what is complicated about it.
Yeah. So I guess, I mean, Zcash seems to be doing okay. Now, I don't know, this is a metric-less opinion. Like,
Hmm.
I just know that they're on several regulated exchanges. People don't seem to be having problems. And there doesn't seem to be very much of an, I guess, an investor-related panic based on that stuff. It seems like, yeah, that's what they do. They do great privacy. They also have transparent options for those who, for those purposes. And it seems like every technical improvement to their product, their core privacy offering, just serves to ingratiate them to the public. To the, everyone seems it seems it's going great, and
I think. Mm.
Monero seems to be doing well financially as compared to like the pack. It seems like the market's doing like esteeming them well, and they're growing in user base and stuff like that. Now, with the challenge with Monero, of course, is there's a lot of there's I at least from my perspective, it seems like there's been more delistings and more actual challenges that are fundamental to the user experience that makes it difficult to implement and use Monero because of its hard coded. You can't do regular like transparent transactions and all like the integration issues that causes, as well as just the regulatory things. But so in it seems like the Dash worry about the privacy coin label and other things like that, and is the regulatory treatment and after effects worry. It seems like people who have not had that worry have done better because they focused on privacy, because it seems like it's a valuable thing to have. So I mean, I don't know, is it really, especially if Dash gets on Thorchain and now just anyone with any coin can just swap and there you go. Is it that much of a worry still that improving on the privacy is going to all of a sudden cause some extra detriment? And who's even paying attention? you know?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think that there is. Well, I worry about it,
Yeah.
but I also see the value.
Mm-hmm.
I think that what we need to do is have a good community discussion over what
Mm-hmm.
we should focus on after platform release. I mean, you can't just focus on one thing because our teams are, ultra specialized in specific
Mm-hmm.
areas, right? But we can actually, um, we do have like in this one team, what community do you think we should focus on the most? There was actually an interesting poll in Discord
Mm-hmm.
around that. I think
Which
it
is
was
known as
like
a universal source of truth, by the way.
yeah, it's not.
Mm-hmm.
But we got like I think there were four things like additional platform features, privacy. Do you remember what
Mm-hmm.
the two other ones were?
Um,
Oh, masternode shares was one,
it's always a big
and
one.
there was one more.
Mm-hmm.
I forget. Anyways, but they all had the same amount of votes.
Yeah.
So
The consensus is obviously as a Discord poll, but the consensus is make Dash better, please.
do
It's like
do
that's it.
everything, please.
Yeah.
Well, one thing that I do hope is that as the dash price recovers, as we deliver platform, we will be able to hire more. Our
Mm-hmm.
team, in terms of devs, is not comparable to where it was last year. We just have a lot more. Uh,
Yeah.
there, yeah. I mean, you know, we just have a lot more development going on. That's something that I'd like to double again as soon as possible.
Yeah.
But right now we can't, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But hopefully, things go well. We can get more developers to be able to do multiple things at the same time, so we don't really have to choose, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, that kind of like wraps into this one, which is, you know, we kind of already asked this and kind of went over this and just a little bit just in just the privacy angle, but which protocol development priorities have been put on the back burner in addition to the privacy, right? Because DCG simply doesn't have the capacity to prioritize them at this point, because obviously get platform out the door first. And how many of those other priorities could be taken on by non-DCG teams, such as, for example, let's say the incubator hiring some devs. So first off, so privacy has been one that has been backburnered. Which other ones?
Yeah, I mean, I said it before. Masternode shares has been another.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm actually hitting a blank here. I'm thinking about platform right now. What has been put on the back burner in platform? Nothing really on consensus. Nothing in storage.
Well, nothing like, well, not platform, because platform has been the front and center, but like non-platform things. Like I'm sure some governance updates might
Oh
be
yes,
nice.
yes, 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 yes. We wanted like deterministic governance. That was also
Mm-hmm.
put on the back burner. Um, I mean, also in platform, there are some things like step threshold signatures that we have that we won't have for MVP. There's a lot of extra stuff that I'd really, more. We just need more capacity to do.
Yeah, and so obviously DCG is a development forward organization, but it's still capped at like 60% or 6% of the block reward, right? 60% of the treasury. The Dash Incubator, which does a lot of other development stuff, uh, I forget the percentage they're taking up, but it's like 1 to 2 or something like that. But the the point being, there's extra developmental resources out there that aren't in DCG, including possible like volunteer stuff. Dash is an open source project after all, and anyone can contribute whether or not they're paid. So, what is the capacity for all these other priorities to just sort of be worked on by other teams? And like, how would that look? And does DCG need to do something to facilitate that, or yeah.
Well, one thing I'm really hoping is that Grove DB and TenderDash, we can really make them into fully fledged projects on their own that
Mm-hmm.
many blockchains would then use. I mean,
Yeah.
GroDB is so many applications,
Mm-hmm.
and then when you have like many blockchains using these underlying projects,
Mm-hmm.
you then a lot of development happens for free, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people, it's open source, so like how many chains now use Tendermint? Many, right?
Yeah, very many.
So you get a lot of it's actually not as much as I would have imagined. Uh, they rely on the Tendermint core devs a lot. I would
Pretty
say
crazy.
90% happens in two orgs, the two
Mm-hmm.
Tendermint. But the point that I was just trying to make is that hopefully we'll be able to get more open source contributions.
Mm-hmm. But then there has to be some things like some platform components have to be released first. But like, what about, for example, like the privacy angle? If people want to start getting ahead on that, is it just like checking out the coin join? Um, is it experimenting out with like what work could be done there, and then
Well, I mean, like
yeah.
if the community wants, and I would love it.
Mm-hmm.
We have the iOS and Android wallet. If you guys could, if somebody out there wants to do a pull request for CoinJoin on iOS or Android, it will
Mm-hmm.
be merged in as long as the code quality is up to par, right? I mean, we can't,
Yeah.
not
Now,
going to add in a bug, right? But like we are open source. The problem isn't that like we're defensive or in any way about code mergers. It's just that we aren't getting any.
mm-hmm.
There's a
Yeah,
lot
and
of talk, but there isn't action.
yeah, and I found this to be, and obviously this is a little bit. Some of this is like past rehashing the past a little bit, but DCG's previous culture for many years ended up like maintaining a certain level of mystery, whether intentionally or not. I'm going to benefit of that out and say not intentional. But so it just became like, well, we're working on our thing and we'll let you know when things are released. And some of that is also just having the benefit of having a treasury to pay people, whereas before you have to constantly be telling everyone what you're doing and begging people to develop for free. But so for however this ended up, there doesn't seem to be too much of a volunteer open source development culture around the Dash project as a whole. And I think that we can probably start, working on kickstarting that, getting that back in the running. But just really quick on the coin join thing in mobile, would you mind, I mean, amongst the million other things you got going on in life, is it possible to get someone to just get some pointers, be like on like how do we turn how do we create that pull request, like, all right, well, here's the CoinJoin libraries, or like, well, the Electrum team did it in mobile at some point. So like, here's some of the libraries. Here you go. This is what it should look like. Get started, and then, you know.
Yeah. The problem is there's probably less than 1,000 people that can do this in the world,
Mm-hmm.
and very and when you take the Venn diagram of how many would like to do it for little to no payment, you're gonna have
Yeah.
a slight uh, issue. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's not that I started in Dash as a volunteer, right?
Mm-hmm.
I started as a volunteer. I was a volunteer all the way up till 2018. I did not even care about.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say I was a volunteer, I still actually got paid for a few things that I did for the network. For example, like I
Mm-hmm.
wrote the X11 in JavaScript. That was crazy, actually. That was one of
Mm-hmm.
my first things that I did. I wrote 11 hash functions in pure JavaScript. It's probably why I hate JavaScript nowadays. But
Well, not like you need a reason.
yeah. So, ooh, wow, I lost my
It
train of thought.
happens.
Sorry.
But just about like the
Uh,
open source.
for it to happen. I would
Mm-hmm.
love, but generally, I don't think somebody that competent would come in and just do it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Put a
you'd have to pay them, and you'd
put a
have
fat
to, and
bounty on it.
even if you paid them, like it's it's complicated, and when you have
Mm-hmm.
things that are complicated, like the bounty for the people that could actually do it,
Mm-hmm.
I think that the one negative problem about crypto
Mm-hmm.
going up in value since 2018 is that a lot of the I don't know, I would say cryptographer devs, right,
Mm-hmm.
who had this vision, well, they became very rich,
Mm-hmm.
and you just have much less of a pool of people. Like I feel like it caused a lot of people from this pool that originally didn't care about money that much to start caring about money.
Mm.
At least that's what I've seen with a lot of the people that I've known,
Yeah.
that originally just like, it was kind of like hippie devs, and then that had invested a little bit in Bitcoin when it was like $5. Then they
Yeah.
became rich, and now yeah,
First
some will
Lambo, first
volunteer on project.
prostitute changes a man.
What do you say?
First Lambo, first prostitute, it changes a man.
I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, um, no, I just don't think that there's as many, and I think that the problem is that there are so many projects that are like
Mm-hmm.
attacking and competing for people's time now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why would they come in and do Dash when there are 1,000 projects that are probably like, oh, please do this for us, please do this for us, you know, like the the life now of somebody who's able to do that is just constantly being hammered for attention, right?
Understandable. Yeah.
So,
Well, it's probably a good time thing to wrap this whole thing up. I've had you for almost
mhm.
2 hours, and you might have a little bit of nap time if you're lucky. Um, so, any parting words?
Well, thank you. Yeah, I mean, thank you so much for having me on.
Anytime.
Um,
Always a big
I
draw.
really do appreciate this. I apologize for me being half asleep at
Hmm.
some points. Um, yeah, I just want, I guess we have an after party afterwards, right?
Yes. I might not be around because, at least not initially, because I do have an engagement immediately after. But I'll just tell people at the after party. There is an after party, which is just like this, but it's not recorded, not broadcast, and as many of you animals can join as you want. And the way you get there is you go to staydashy.com, which gets you to the Dash Discord, which many of you are already in there, or and then you just start asking around, hey, where's the after party? Can someone let me in? Or if you just are allergic to Discord for whatever reason, you can just message me. And you know me, the Desert Links on Twitter, on Yeah, is that like is that it? Is that the recap? Is that the ending point right there?
Well, I mean, I'll just be in there if anybody wants to ask me any questions.
Mm-hmm. All right. Cool. Well, thanks so much for being on, Sam. Thanks everyone for watching. It's been quite an interesting and glitchy day. As anyone listening to this will notice, like this thing has been like giving like periodic, like every 15 minutes, like a little glitch. And I will get to the bottom of this again. Problem with open source software is there's always something that works weird. But hopefully next one will be smoother. But at least everything came through for the most part. And yeah, if people don't have any idea what he's saying, I'm sure you'll recap all this in text form in the DCG channel, right? Just kidding. I'm messing with you. All right. Well, have a great rest of the weekend, guys. Hopefully, see you in the after party at some point. We'll see what time I get done with stuff tonight. But yeah, if not, jump into the after party because Sam will be in there, and then there will be people who are going to be sending me messages. Dude, are you in here right now? Guess what Sam's talking? I'm like, oh, I'm missing it. But I do get people to recap it. But anyway, happy Friday, happy weekend, and I'll see you guys all later.